you shouldn't judge your own marketing. Good ideas come and go.
Sure, strategies, sweet success.
Hello, everyone. This is Tiffany Swidensky, and welcome to a special episode of Sharp Strategy Sweet Success. It's just me today because actually I am using the podcast as an opportunity to go over basically draft one of a presentation I'll be giving at the GLM bootcamp on August 2nd. Now, this episode will actually come out after the bootcamp. So you'll be hearing draft one as I've set it up, and but likely the real presentation will have some changes. So if you're one of the few people who are listening to this after I speak or listening to this after I give the presentation, you'll be hearing maybe a slightly different version as I work out some of the kinks in the presentation. And to get started, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and give a little bit of backstory. For people who've been listening, I always worry that it's a little bit boring because you guys know me. But for new listeners, I want to give you a sense of like who I am and what I've been able to accomplish for the law firms I work for. So I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory, a little information about me. I finished my marketing degree when I was 27, and I got a job working for an IT staffing company doing payroll, HR, admin, and marketing. Um, and I didn't know it, but I was about to be fired for asking for a pay raise. At the time, I really didn't know how to do marketing, and I was afraid I didn't know how to do marketing, and I didn't. So my fears were justified. And I was working for somebody who was demanding and expected me to work after I left the office. And the year that I worked for this company, I was basically working from like the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And it was a lot. It was untenable. But the job gave me an opportunity to learn a few important lessons. Number one, tech jobs were high in demand. At the time, and this was like 2014, you didn't have to have very much experience at all with tech to get a job on a federal contract or for one of these like big companies doing like software engineering. You really didn't have to have too much experience. A company was hiring people who were still working on their college degree or who had never graduated, never intended to, but had done like a lot of side projects and things on their own. And we were reaching out to they were so in demand, like, we were reaching out to people to fill these roles where we were looking to staff. And it was incredible to me because at the time, I was graduating college, a little bit older than average, and I had just moved to Virginia, and I was sending out resumes, like, every day trying to find a job and kept coming up empty-handed. But, we were like seeking out these people for these like IT software engineering roles, like junior roles, and paying them a lot of money. And they had next to no experience and were barely even trying to find a job. It was so different than like my experience. So, like, I learned that tech jobs were in demand. And so that's when I started teaching myself the basics of web development and email marketing. And I mentioned, like, I didn't know it, but at the time I was about to be fired, and that's totally true. I did get fired. I asked for a 5K pay raise and was fired a week later. And again, that gave me an opportunity to interview with Great Legal Marketing and Ben Glass Law to get my first real marketing job. And again, like at the time, like I didn't know how to do marketing, but Ben had the mindset, like a unique mindset of life and marketing. He was very much like all rising tides lift all boats. And he was very eager to teach what he knew. Like that was one thing that Ben just loves teaching what he knows about business and marketing. And actually, like through Ben and his teachings on marketing, I actually started to finally understand like what marketing for a law firm was. Ben and I worked together for like several years. I started as his digital marketer for GLM, and then I became marketing director for both of his companies until I eventually left and started my own. And so now I'm a fractional CMO for law firms. And my company, Sharp Cookie, that's pretty much what we do. We work with law firms to help them make marketing happen. To give you a sense of some of the results that I've been able to produce for my clients, for one law firm, we've increased their total PI leads by 262% year to date. That same law firm, their signed cases have increased year to date 448%. And all of their rest of their numbers are similarly impressive, but usually those are the big ones. Over my career, I've helped generate over $1 million in product sales using only social media. Also, depending on the law firm, I reduced cost per case acquisition by 40% to 200%, depending on the practice area in the law firm. So I've been able to generate some really impressive numbers, and that's not counting some of the more niche metrics that may not matter at the like firm level, but matter as a marketing metric. Things like improved Google business metrics, increased SEO, so on and so forth. I would go on, but at a certain point, it feels like bragging. I want to come back to the basics. So now you know me and now you know who I am. And then also, I have a marketing director mastermind group where legal marketing directors can come together and share experiences, share results, tips, strategies. And I also make available the strategies and systems that I use for my clients to help them generate cases. So now you know about me and my company. I'm going to go into the meat and potatoes of this presentation, which is essentially helping you, the law firm owner, this is who I'm primarily talking to, build and grow a marketing department. Because a lot of you who are interested in making more money and getting more cases, you're going to do that through marketing, whether you want to or not. And what I see just in general is that law firms just getting by, the ones who essentially the attorney has a self created job, they're signing cases enough to keep the lights on and make payroll, but they're not making like huge profits. They're the law firms that are just doing the bare minimum. They probably don't have a dedicated marketing person. Maybe that's somebody who's actually the lead intake person. Their job description also includes marketing stuff. They just don't get to it, but maybe 10 hours a week. That's the law firm that's just getting by. That's the law firm that's not not expected to grow in huge leaps and bounds over the short term. Now, the law firms that I look at and say this law firm is going to grow and get big are the law firms who have marketing teams. Not just one person, not just two people, but usually like three people, four people, including a marketing vendor, like an SEO vendor. And just to give you a breakdown, like this is I mapped this out earlier today. So this is my marketing team dream team list. And it is 6 hires. And me with these 6 people, I don't feel like there's almost any limit to what like we could do as a marketing department because this is like all of the human capital necessary to make marketing happen and to grow a firm. But this is the dream team. This is actually not the realistic what a law firm marketing team looks like for most practices. But I'm going to give you my dream team. Hire number 1 is a dedicated web administrator, SEO specialist. Hire number 2 is your dedicated intake manager, the person solely responsible for answering the phones and doing new client intakes. Hire number 3 is your marketing assistant slash coordinator. There is a difference between a marketing assistant and a marketing coordinator. A marketing assistant is going to be the person who traditionally like does more of the work, who makes the creatives, who is going to coordinate with vendors and basically like the material. But I looked up what a marketing coordinator does so I could give people a sense like, oh, what is the difference? And apparently a marketing coordinator is somebody who just sets strategy and like looks at all this stuff but doesn't execute, which is kind of wild to me. It's like, how valuable is your job if you never execute on anything? But anyway, I'm getting off track. But you do need a dedicated marketing assistant or coordinator Assistant may be more appropriate for law firms because this isn't somebody who's going to be making like huge creative decisions for you, but it's somebody who's going to do important things like reach out to vendors or send that logo to that person or fill out the spreadsheet. You need somebody who's going to do that stuff and do that on a short timeline. And also like set up e-newsletters, schedule social media posts. It's more than just traditional admin, but it's not like it's not as creative as maybe what you would expect the social media specialist to do. Speaking of a social media specialist, that's hire number 4. This person is going to create a constant stream of content for your law firm. So you show up everywhere all the time. Hire number 5 is going to be your marketing director or CMO. A lot of law firms will hire somebody who's more of a marketing coordinator and bestow them the title of marketing director. But really, like what they're doing, what their job description looks like is more of a marketing coordinator. Now, a marketing director or a CMO is going to be somebody who's going to be making more broad creative decisions about the marketing of your firm. And really, in my head, if you have a marketing director, you also have to have the marketing budget to support a marketing director. There's very few if your marketing is on a low budget or it's all organic, there's very few creative decisions to make. So you may not need a marketing director in that case. But so that's hire number 5 though of the dream team. And then finally, hire number 6 of the dream team is going to be your community or events coordinator, which is your dedicated marketer who's your networker, the person doing community outreach, the person responding to emails, generally the person who's, I guess, what you would call like the personality or the customer service rep. But it's really like more authentic or organic than that. Having somebody who's really, really good at managing relationships is really valuable for a law firm. So that's the dream team. And you're hearing that and you're like, I am never gonna have a 6-person marketing team. A lot of times, like I'm talking to law firms who aren't sure if they have enough work to keep a full-time marketer busy. So they're worried about the one person. How are we going to fill the plates of 6 people? It's actually fairly easy because each of these roles is a full-time job easily within a law firm that has the budget and is willing to grow and invest. Your website administrator or SEO company, they're going to be full-time job is your website and writing content. Nobody else has to do that job. They are in charge of that. And the only thing they have to do is grow the website. Your dedicated intake manager, absolutely essential. That they're a person on the dream team, but I really don't like working with law firms that don't have a dedicated intake manager. And then you have social media specialist, again, like that's a full-time job for one person. It really is. And so like we can easily fill the plates of all those people on that dream team. But the reality is like most of you guys aren't going to have a 6-person team. So let me paint you a more realistic picture of what this looks like. First, you need your SEO and web administrator. That's a must have. You need your intake manager. Again, must have. And then you need your marketing coordinator slash director. Again, like it's so hard to say like it's hard to have a marketing director if you don't also have a budget to support a marketing director. There's only so many creative decisions that they can make if they're only doing so-called organic marketing. A lot of times, like if we have any type of big idea, we have to pay to push it out into the marketplace. And so, like, if you have somebody coming up with creative ideas, but they don't have a vehicle for distributing that idea, if they don't have a marketing budget to back up their ideas, you don't necessarily need that marketing director. So, but you do need somebody who can step into your firm and say, this needs to get done, this needs to get done, and has the follow through to make sure it happens. And then finally, like number 4, a marketing assistant. And that's somebody who, maybe this is a part-time job. Maybe you have like an admin assistant who also doubles as a marketing assistant, and that's fine. But it's usually a good idea if your marketing assistant has some practical marketing skills. So, with this four person marketing team, you have the resources to one, post on social media daily, two, send out an email newsletter each week, three, write and publish 2 to 4 articles each week, write, publish, and mail a printed newsletter each month, mail personalized letters to 50 referral sources each month, know exactly how most leads find your law firm. And when I say exactly, I should really put like parentheses around that because it's hard to know exactly how people find our law firm and the exact paths that they take. And last thing on this list, you'll also, with this four-person team, have the time, bandwidth, capital, whatever, to complete 3 to 4 unique marketing projects each quarter. So that's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that your law firm could be doing, your law firm's marketing department could be and should be doing today. So take that list, copy it down, put it in your words, give it to your marketing department and ask them, like, are we hitting these metrics? Are we doing these things? This will probably give you a few quick wins of things that you could be doing, should be doing. And this list will probably give you a few quick wins of things that you could be doing and should be doing in your marketing part. So this is a list that I've given out before. And usually when I give this list out to people, it's immediately followed up with what is the right way to, and by that I mean people usually ask me what's the right way on to execute on these marketing strategies. They hear something like post on social media daily. They usually ask me, like, what content should I post? Like, how do we make it? What tools do we need? What kind of content plans can I give my teams? And what I want to tell you, and the point I try to get across to the marketers who I work with as a part of the mastermind group, and also the attorneys that I work with at these law firms. But there's really no right way to market your law firm. And really, you shouldn't judge your own marketing. Good ideas come and go. I've implemented marketing ideas before. I've had marketing ideas where we implement them and it's like this huge success, and I'm super happy with the numbers. Like, yay. And then like 2 weeks later, I'm still doing the same old, same old. I had one success and it's not repeatable. Because like if every marketing success were repeatable, every company would have like the fast track to make $1 million. All you had to do was like keep hitting that same marketing strategy over and over and keep getting money. But the truth is that, these good ideas that we have, these good marketing ideas, they get worn out. People get used to them. They are not novel anymore. So people stop responding to them. So we can repeat them, but only to a point, and then they stop working. Good ideas, they go, and we have to find a way to replace that good idea with a new good idea. And that's one of the struggles of marketing. And then something else I try to teach marketers is that bad ideas happen. You implement a marketing idea, it doesn't work the way you expected, whatever. People forget, forgive, move on. Nobody is spending their mental energy remembering how cringe your LinkedIn used to be or remembering how bad that ad that they saw was. Like people, it's hard enough to get people to pay attention in marketing. What most people do is that they never see your marketing or they don't react to it because it's not memorable. That's bad marketing. The biggest marketing failure is when nobody sees the marketing that you've created. Beyond that, like there's only really successes in marketing. There's either the marketing that works or the marketing that never gets seen. And so don't judge your marketing because your target audience will judge for you. And since no good idea sticks around forever, works forever, and since no bad idea is remembered forever, your best bet as a marketer is just to market as much as you can as quickly as possible. Continually make content because sometimes you'll hit a home run and get a ton of engagement and get a ton of follows. But then sometimes you'll do something and it goes nowhere, and that's fine. So don't judge your own marketing, just make marketing happen. Focus on output. Your team should always be making and finishing new content. I've been on teams before where it just never seems like anyone can get anything done. And really, that's a leadership problem. Really, like your team should be finishing, closing on projects and completing articles, social media posts, whatever they're working on. And most of the time, like the bigger problem that I see isn't necessarily is that the team can't finish a project, but leadership has become a bottleneck. They are looking at reviewing work. But, point is like if you want people to see your marketing, you have to make marketing. Don't stand in the way of what your team is doing and create this bottleneck. Focus on output. Don't spend 2 weeks optimizing a single social media post when we're supposed to be posting something every day. Don't get in the way of that. So, kind of halfway through my talk a little bit. Or we're halfway through my talk at this point, and I told you more or less my philosophy on marketing, which is that it's a game of producing more content and a game of just producing more in general. Like a lot of marketing gets categorized as content, but it's showing up every day and taking a swing, whether that's on LinkedIn or it's on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, or if it's like publishing new content on your website or optimizing new content. You don't have to like critically analyze the stuff that you're doing. Just do it. Just do it and finish it. So I read a post on LinkedIn recently written by Rand Fishkin. And if you aren't familiar with Rand Fishkin, I really recommend you go look him up. He is somebody who, I guess, like spearheaded modern search engine optimization. I learned search engine optimization from Rand. I watched a lot of his Whiteboard Friday videos that he made back when he worked for Moz. Just generally, Rand was a very good source of SEO and marketing knowledge. And today, his company, I think it's SparkToro, has expanded beyond search engine optimization. And now Rand talks about marketing kind of holistically, talks about it big picture. And one thing that he pointed out recently is that the biggest change coming in marketing in 2024 is just the death of lead attribution. It's You would think it would be easier for us as marketers to pinpoint how leads learn about us and the journeys that they take through our marketing funnels. But it's actually really hard to know a lot of those details. There's a lot of something I call silent marketing out there, which is that marketing that works but doesn't show up or get a positive return on investment. For example, social media. Social media, you might be somebody who shows up on somebody's social media feed every week for 6 months. And then that person gets into a car accident and recognizes your name when they search for attorneys. Now, that lead properly should be attributed to social media, but it won't be because likely that person is not going to tell the law firm that they follow their social media. Somebody would have to make that connection. And let's just assume that they didn't use their first and last name and their username. It might be impossible to find out. And then also, there's no lead tracking software out there that's going to connect those dots and say that social media helped us convert that lead. But what we do see is that law firms that have a healthy, thriving social media presence also get more leads. And so it doesn't show up in the numbers anywhere. It's really silent. It's silent marketing, but it works and it helps the law firm and supports the marketing overall. And a lot of marketing is this way. Email marketing is this way because even if somebody is opening their inbox and deleting your emails for 6 months, they're still becoming familiar with your brand name and your business name and the messaging you use, at least through the subject lines. And so all of it supports and helps convert the lead, but it doesn't necessarily show up. And so a lot of times when I'm talking to firms who are really like hard nosed, who really want like firm, hard calculations on how well is this working? How well is that working? They're not going to find the numbers that they want because they just don't exist. And then also like if we do like make cuts in marketing based on strictly what's showing up in the ROI, we would cut things like social media and email marketing, but we'd end up worse for the wear. So be careful what you're cutting. Some of it just doesn't show up at all. Anyway, future marketing in 2004, we're seeing SEO budgets. So the money that a lot of law firms were previously dedicating to SEO, they're shifting now to social media. And then finally, and this isn't necessarily the future, it's the now. But from what I see with AI and large language models, I mean, there's still going to be a lot of change that comes from these tools. Maybe the pace of change with the large language models and the AI, it hasn't been as rapid as promised. I think it was probably about 2 years ago. I spoke with an SEO company, and there was a very small SEO company, like a single owner agency or whatever. The owner told me very confidently that copywriters wouldn't exist in 6 months. And this was, I guess, like November 2021, shortly after ChatGPT came out. Very confident that copywriters weren't going to exist anymore in 6 months. And, here we are 2 years later. Um, that prediction hasn't come true. We still have ghostwriters and copywriters with thriving careers. Maybe some of the worst lost their jobs initially after ChatGPT. But what we're seeing is that, again, like AI didn't usher in this massive change and replace a ton of people. But what AI did do is make it a lot easier to make content at scale. And so while it's not really the revolutionary tool that I think a lot of people thought it would be, and maybe it is, we're just not there yet, who knows? But what I'm seeing, just trying to be reasonable, is that AI has tremendously impacted how quickly we can make written content, images, content plans, outlining. We're also using it to like automate operations and workflow processes. So it's really impressive, all the things that we're able to do with it. And it leaves no more excuses. Like there is no more excuses for any marketer or any law firm struggling to make marketing happen. You don't need to wait 6 weeks for somebody to write a sales letter anymore. You don't need 6 weeks for your graphic designer to return and design anymore. A lot of times we're able to produce these things on the fly, on the spot. So utilize these AI tools and adjust your expectations because the way we were writing content in 2020, the way we were doing graphic design in 2020 has changed completely. And we're able to do these things just much faster. So that's the thing. Embrace these AI tools, these large language models, because they're how we're going to make content at scale overall. So I want to give you guys some goals for your marketing department. Because after this podcast, you're going to go back to your law firm and you're going to look at your marketer and say, like, these are the things that we should be focusing on. These are the numbers that we should be hitting. And so I'm going to give you those goals. Give you those goals to work with to get started with. Number one is total number of leads and qualified leads. Legal marketing is different than a lot of other types of marketing. A lot of like if you're a product marketer, if you're somebody who, let's just say, is selling lipstick, you might, and let's say you're doing this primarily through social media, you might have different goals than what a law firm might have. You're probably focusing on, like, okay, how do I get more engagement on this post? How do I get more shares? What ad gets more people to click to go to the landing page? You're probably going to be looking at all of that stuff. And then honestly, all of that stuff sounds like a lot of fun. But for a law firm, like what we're focusing on is inbound leads only. Lawyers don't really care about those social media numbers. Lawyers don't really care about those ancillary marketing tracking numbers. And then also, a lot of them don't really matter for a law firm. What matters for a law firm is how many inbound leads have they got and how many of those leads were qualified. And this is a metric that I've used for years now for law firms, and it's probably one of the overall more important ones. Another goal for marketing departments is number of articles published each week. Usually I'm shooting for like 3 or 4 new articles each week. number of social media posts each week. Usually I'm shooting for 7, so 1 each day. Number of new names added to your email marketing list. And this will vary greatly because some law firms will do a lot of lead generation using ebooks and will have a lot of names added to their email marketing list each week. And then some don't do that kind of marketing. They focus strictly on lead generation. And so they won't have as many added to the newsletter list. But I still think it's an important number because email marketing is something that all law firms can do that's really accessible and that's really effective. But that's another conversation. Another metric or goal your marketing department should be working towards is increasing the total number of organic visitors your website gets each week, each month. For personal injury law firms, I'm usually shooting for 1,500 organic visitors each week. So that's 7 days. A lot of law firms really aren't there. That's the goal number. So a lot of the personal injury firms that I'm working with who are just getting started, they're getting like 100 visitors a week, sometimes less than that. And so like 1,500 is obviously the goal, but it's a really good goal. And then finally, a number of inbound referrals to the firm because referral marketing is a huge part of legal marketing. And that's always a number that we're trying to increase. So I've given you who, I've given you kind of what you should be doing, talking about some of the goals and some of the projects that your marketing department could be working on. Now I'm going to be talking to you big picture, like how your marketing department should spend its time. And this is an important lesson that I always try to include in my presentations because I think for a lot of attorneys, what we think of when we think of building a business is how can we create repeatable, scalable processes? It's what a lot of business owners ask themselves. And so, like, if we're running a personal injury case, our case manager is going to have a certain list of tasks. Our paralegal is going to have a certain list of tasks. We're going to have a medical records collector, and they're going to be responsible for doing this, 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 this. And if you're good, you can create like a checklist of everything that the law firm needs to do to run a personal injury case. And it's almost all systematized until you get to basically litigation. And that's when I don't need to tell you guys this, but that's when I think things get a little bit different. And I'm kind of speaking outside of my wheelhouse here. But the point I'm trying to make is that with marketing, there are a lot of things that are very routine that we can do on a checklist basis. But really, there are a lot of things in marketing that aren't going to be checklist based. So just let me give you a pie chart. And if you're listening to podcasts, you're probably not going to see this. So you'll just take it on faith that I'm talking about a pie chart. We're looking at a pie chart, and half of it is 50% is time your team is spending on routine, repeatable tasks. That's what it looks like for your marketing department. Half the time they're spending time on these repeatable routine things. Things like posting on social media, sending an e-newsletter, adding contacts to the database, optimizing emails. A lot of these things that I mentioned here can be routine, repeatable tasks, things that are set to a process where you hand somebody a playbook and you say, here, do this each week. That's half of what your marketing team is going to do. 10%, so like a smaller sliver, is going to be time spent looking at data and reviewing data. Now, there's a lot of things that we can do as marketers to automate data retrieval for the numbers that we want to look at. But once we get those numbers, we still have to spend time reviewing them and deciding what's the best course to take from here. So, just as an example, if one of your goals is to increase your Google business rankings, then you should spend at least some time dedicated to monitoring those rankings and seeing, like, okay, how did we perform this week? How did we perform the week after? And keeping a pulse on that information. So, I mean, it's a lot. We should be looking at data in the law firm's marketing data, but it doesn't need to be a huge chunk of time. 10%, maybe 20%, stretching it a little bit. That's enough. And then whatever's left over, 40%, let's say, that should be spent on, or that is going to be spent on lead generation or basically projects that aren't repeatable or are things that we're going to do once and be done with. And so that's almost half of what you're doing, 40%. And these are going to be things like maybe we're mailing a referral list, or maybe we're doing outreach to help increase registration for an event. Maybe we're doing a community event. Maybe we're launching a new website and we need to QA some pages. Maybe we're launching a PPC campaign and we need to Q&A the headlines. All of these things are things that we do once a quarter, maybe like twice a quarter, but they're not repeatable. Like there's nothing to systematize because they don't happen often enough. And sometimes they're specialized enough, unique enough that there is really no system that we can outline or a process for people to follow. There are so many ways to build a lead generation funnel. What's important is, do you know what's going to work, or do you know what headlines to use, that kind of thing. It's harder to make these repeatable processes. And I bring up this lesson when I'm talking to law firms because a lot of law firms, one of the big mistakes that I see lawyers make building a marketing department is they try to document everything. They try to make everything a repeatable process. And then if their employees like talk about a process that isn't repeatable, it's put on the back burner or shuttled to the sideline because it's not important, it's not critical. And so we basically create these marketing roles where everything is routine and nothing is unique. And that's just not how marketing is. Think about marketing for any big business. I'm just going to pick Coca Cola. I have a can of zero sugar Coke on my desk. Think about all of the new ads that they create every month, every week, maybe. Um, they're not going to be doing that by doing the same repeatable stuff every time. You can't create something new by doing the same things. You can't create growth by doing the same things over and over and over. I mean, consistency and hitting your goals and your milestones, that's one thing. But implementing the same ideas over and over and over isn't the way to get you new leads. You got to implement new things. You got to grow and build upon what you've learned. So important in marketing. So always make sure that your marketing team has enough time to spend on those one-off marketing projects, things that aren't repeatable, because they need to. They need to if your law firm wants to grow. So at this point, I'm giving you a good idea of a marketing department blueprint and what you should be thinking about as you go back to your firms and build a marketing department. But no marketing talk would be complete without a fun, super fun shopping list. So I have a list of tools that I use that help me implement marketing for my 5 fractional CMO clients. And these are, now, not every law firm uses the same tools that I'm going to list here, but these are the tools that Sharp Cookie and Tiffany uses. But I have a list of tools that help me like organize and manage all of this. Number one is a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. My favorite right now that's affordable is Active Campaign. Although honestly, I still really love Keep KEAP dot com. That's still, I think, my favorite. Google Workspace. Even if you have Outlook, really, I think for marketers, you really need a Google Workspace account because you need a Google account to be able to access things like local service ads and Google ads. And then also, Google is coming out with new AI tools built into their workspace. And they're really cool features that help you like manage content and review emails, categorize emails. So I really recommend at the very least creating some sort of Gmail that your marketing team can use to get into Google Ads. Canva. Canva is a very popular and very easy to use graphic design tool with tons of templates. Your marketing department needs a subscription like this. Now, and if you have a more advanced specialist in house, you're probably going to be using things like Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects. These are in Illustrator and Design. These are tools that can do a little bit more than Canva can do, and I think they come with built-in templates these days. The Canva's more user-friendly overall. Hootsuite or some sort of social media managing tool, some sort of project management tool. I use Trello. There are tons of options out there. Zapier, must have. Get nothing else on this list but Zapier, you'll be fine. So ChatGPT, and actually more specifically, I don't have a paid ChatGPT account. I have a Jasper account, which I'm thinking about canceling just to use the paid ChatGPT account. But one thing that I found more useful is creating a business account with OpenAI and using Zapier to and OpenAI API to create automation. CallRail and LeadDocket are the last two tools I'm going to put on my list. And really, hopefully, most of you should have these already. LeadDocket is the most expensive tool that I put on this list, but it's invaluable in terms of marketing and lead attribution. Okay. So that's pretty much everything that I plan to talk about on Friday. I'm very happy, dear listeners, that you were able to listen to this talk with me, and I hope you got a lot of good out of it. I'm going to take this, refine it a little bit, and give my talk on Friday. For now, I encourage you guys, if you're tuning in for the first time, if this is your very first episode, go check me out on LinkedIn. Honestly, I post content there every day, trying to talk to marketing directors and trying to talk to law firm owners who want a marketing department. Basically, how to get marketing done. Now, that's the type of content I try to post every day. And also, if you visit my website, you can sign up for my email newsletter. I send one or two newsletters out each week, depending on what's going on. Try to keep the information useful and interesting if I can. And sometimes I'll talk about the podcast. So it's circular. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.